Oh man, top tier, small RD, this is pretty ideal. I would still start on this corner right here and look to see what you can blap. I forget what the base pen with this is. The base pen's 130, so you can pen pretty much anything there from that range. And then, as usual, well, that's unusual. Why did the countdown timer ended, but the game didn't start? So as usual, what you want to do about 30-60 seconds to every game is to look and see what your team is doing, which way they're going, and that'll give you an idea of what you're going to need to do on whichever side. Some of them started shifting west, but it looks like most of them are now coming down to the southeast, which is fine. You've got a couple of guys that'll probably camp up in the base side. So you're not really sending anybody north, which is probably pretty good. So you don't have a whole lot of firepower up here with you early, but that's quite okay. Just look to get some shots here. It's fine. Your PZ-1C is probably going to die, but you don't really have the fire support there to help him anyways. Like, their Stug is coming through there, but he'll only really get shots if they are rather... Why are you firing HE? Like, you can pen any of these guys with AP. There's no reason for you to fire HE. Like, both of those guys could be dead right now. I guess, you know, firing HE is a cost-saving measure. Like, you could have had 3 one-shots right now. But, okay, that's fine. That's not a very good shot. I mean, you could take it, but... Oh, okay. It's become a much better shot. That was just unfortunate. So their M7 is left. You can actually start pushing out here. They don't actually have a whole lot of their pen tanks on this side, so you don't have to worry about that. You can just start pushing forward and take out this PZ-1C. And you could probably bully the rest on the side. Looks like their team's either being pretty campy, and it looks like they sent either most of their pen guys, their tier 5 guys, are still in the base, or they went to the north. So a couple of things, like there was no reason for you to have HE loaded in this map for this comp, like at all. And then 2, just make sure that you push a little bit more aggressively there once you understand that you have the advantage. And you know the artillery is on your side, so you need to be a little bit careful. This M7 is pushing up. You can actually probably counter push this area. Because of where the artillery shell landed back there, it suggests that he's still in the base. You can probably get these guys out before anything happens. The only thing that you can't one-shot there is the M7. I would still hit the M7 first if he's the first available. You don't need to sit out there. The M7 is one of the tanks that actually can pen you. If the T-82 gives you a shot, that's fine. T-82. And again, I just want to highlight. See the power of the AP round in this type of low tier battle. You can just really punish people. And so they're in your base and you should go back, which it looks like you are, so that's good. Winners try to defend. In the interest of not putting everybody to sleep watching a very slow tank trying to return to base, we will speed this up. Very responsible though, I applaud the effort. And as usual, your team will continue to push forward on that side, even though it is the wrong play, but that will happen. You need to keep moving forward, even if they don't get on cap. You don't want to be fighting them at range. Well, you want to be fighting them at a specific range, just not a very long range. And this is the only tank that you may want to load your premium shell for. You don't need to though. Like I said, 120, what was it, 130 pen is more than enough to pen the KV3.
Nice shot.
Blap blap. And then it's just a matter of finding out where the rest of the guys are. And so the tricky part, whenever you're in a situation like this where it's 1v4, the tricky part, especially if you're in a slow tank, is you need to be cognizant of the possibility of you getting capped out. Like this T40 can just drive up here and cap you out. There's only so quickly that you can possibly move, even though this is a relatively, we'll put it in air quotes, fast tank. No, look at the red dot, yeah. It's okay, he wasn't looking at you either, so... Oh, no, take your time. Take your time. And don't push out at him. Pushing out at him, it doesn't make his shot any worse, right? He's got the exact same shot, but it makes it so that you become more and more exposed to getting shot by his team. And that's what you always have to be aware of. Now at this point I would actually probably wrap back and come around through here. You've got 8 minutes left. Okay, well you know where the T40 is. Well that's good. The Martyr 2... Yeah, I would actually probably still push through on this side instead. The Martyr 2 will probably be over here. I can't really see him coming through this side, but you can make that. I think that's more of a judgment call. I just think it's easier to play through this side, especially in a big ass tank, because if you get lit going through the swamp, you're not going to really have any recourse. Whereas if you get lit coming through this side, you've got a lot of. Well, first of all, there's not a whole lot of places for them to hide, but you've got a lot of little hills that you can hide behind. So pretty much, unless that Martyr 2 like just pushes up on you right here, right around this corner, like he's always going to have the advantage down the rest of this straightaway. And so you always need to consider that when you start pushing through areas. Oh look, take time. I think you do a little bit too much tracing and not quite enough leading. I would try a little bit more to instead of following the tank and waiting for your reticle to close, aim in front of him a little bit and just wait for your reticle to close. You'll actually aim faster that way. And then so they know that you're coming through here now, and so that's when you always need to be careful again, because it's pretty easy to get lit, and you don't usually want to give your side up. Like, going up here is not a bad idea. There's still 6.5 minutes in the game. You don't know which side that he's on, because he could have squirted by on either side by now. So not seeing him here makes you think that he probably already went through this side towards your base. So I would actually probably start curling back up through here, especially when you're in a slow tank. I mean, again, this tank isn't quite that slow. It actually does decently on open ground. It doesn't climb that well, but you have to think that he got by on one side because he was over in this area. He knew where you were, right? He knew that you were over here, so actually it seems like he didn't probably come through here, but most likely since you didn't spot him coming around on this side, he already made it through on this side. The Martyr 2 is not like super fast, and it's not like he's gonna like burn out over there. But so again, it's just a logic tree at this point. You knew that he was in this area. You knew that he knew that you were right here, and you knew that he knew that you were right here when you killed those guys, right? So he knew that your path was basically like this. So the question is, for you, what path do you think that he took? So the path that you took went up through here like this. So you know that he didn't stay here. So the question is, Did he come through here? No, he probably didn't come through here because you would have lit him if he was like following their west through. So he didn't come through here. He didn't stay here. Is it likely then that he drove this way? Does that make sense? Probably not. The more likely scenario is that he drove around on that side. And then it's just a coin flip. And you can actually, now is when you want to start lobbing HE shells over there. Because you can actually shoot from cap to cap. No, you don't win. It's going to be a draw. So you need 5-second difference between the two timers, and you have a 3-second difference between the two timers. But again, you can spam HE shells if you want on the other side, especially with the nice arc of this particular thing. So this is going to end in a draw. So what did you do right? What did you do wrong? One, there was no reason for you to ever have HE loaded in this matchup. You were going to feast on almost every single one of these tanks with just straight AP from any distance, from any angle. There wasn't any reason to shoot HE at all, and you could have had a bunch of those guys down much earlier, which may or may not have helped out your team. And then once these guys, you had one of your team push through. It might have been the M3 Steward at the PZ1. No, the PZ1C died over here. It might have been like the M3 Steward that just like pushed through there, just YOLO'd in there. And you saw them peel off, like that Grant peeled off, and everyone else peeled off that back there. And you still waited back here a little bit. You needed to push in and like kill that PZ1C. They had a couple other tanks over in this area that you could have gotten down in that time. So you always want to look for those windows of opportunity. If your team does something, whether it's smart or whether it's stupid, you want to be able to take advantage of when the enemy reacts to it. And then after that, I thought you did fine in terms of going back to cap and then just cleaning these guys up one by one. It was very nice of them to come at you one at a time. But them's the breaks. And then it's just a matter of making those decisions. And when you're outnumbered and when you're in a slow tank, you always need to be cognizant of the fact of when you're getting too far away from your cap. Coming back up through here in the middle, I thought was actually a good idea. But once you got up here, and you didn't see anybody like on any side, you need to start thinking about that cap. And so if we look at the stats, you didn't really get a whole lot out of your team, but that's at those low tiers, it's really to be expected. I mean, when you look at their team, they didn't really do that much better. You actually probably could have bullied a lot harder than you did, still, but them's the breaks. GG, nice try. At least you got a lot of kills for it. I will send you a code through the official forums, probably later tonight. If you are on the NA server, that is. Alright, the next one is also in 9.10. It's Korhaniski's. A Redshire game. Well, you should never listen to what the other team tells you. Alright, Redshire, top tier stuff. Pretty much same comps. They might be a little heavier. So especially from this side, I really recommend not playing the east. And so what you want to be able to do ideally is to figure out what they have in this area, basically in these 4 squares, E3, E4, F3, F4. And if you can figure that out, you can figure out whether you're going to, or whether it's going to be easy to win the game or not. And so usually what I'll do is I'll go set up near the cap. I usually don't want to set off the cap, especially very early. Please don't, please refrain from shaking the camera like that in games that you are going to have it. So I really think that's the easiest play. So if you are going to come over to this one line, it's actually best not to come back so far. I actually say you can just drive down this road if you really wanted to. It's relatively protected, and you don't need to waste as much time sort of curling out. You also have to watch and see what your 3 line is going to do. Are they actually going to get lights? Are they actually going to be able to look anybody off there? And it doesn't really look like your team is going to do that. It looks like you sent a bunch of your heavies to the east, which is always, I think, a bad play, but what do I know? Encounter is a very interesting mode for some people. I think they just kind of drive around and they ignore the caps. When you play standard mode, the caps sort of tend to be in populated areas simply because they're the spawns. So people go from one spawn to the other spawn, but in an encounter, they lose their mind and they don't understand that the spawn is also a team goal. So your Cromwell and that T-34-3 are engaging. You're sort of on this one line. This isn't really that great of a place. You're not really going to profit that much until they do something.
It's a trap!
You need to get some more damage out on this guy. Oh, the blockage. He's gonna back up a little more. Not you, back up.
It's a trap!
Nice shot.
And so you guys are getting stomped on the other side. And so really what you need to do is just put 3 in cap, would be my recommendation. But my recommendation is almost always cap and screen, cap pressure and screen, because that's just, it's so effective. So right now you're driving around a little bit too much and you're not actually doing anything. And that's going to hurt you. Like these guys down here, they're not really going to have an effect on the outcome of the game. These Hellcats potentially, you've only got 1 in cap despite the fact that you've got a lot of satellites, which doesn't really help you too much there. You now have 2 in cap, but it's... I also don't like playing this ridge right here. I think that it's a pretty worthless ridge until far too late in the game. And this is one of those games where you have to recognize that this is a cap out or lose type of situation for your team. So you need to be able to put on cap pressure. That AMX that was in cap is no longer in cap. He suicided. You had another guy that suicided up here. What was that? The Jumbo that could have very easily just been in cap with the 122-44. You're still just driving around too much. You haven't moved any place meaningful, and that's been a huge detriment to your team. So the problem is that you can screen the cap, but there's only 1 on cap, and so that's going to make it relatively easy for them to. It gives them plenty of time, right? And also your 1 guy on cap is driving over the hill, so he's about to get shot. And so I think you probably should have shown more of a willingness to get shot there. Like you could have farmed more damage from that position that you were in, and that might have helped these guys from not pushing, because they're going to push the 122-44. So you need to watch that guy. You need to come back. You know that they're going to come over and kill him, right? It's just far too much driving around. Just driving around. That's not the guy who's killing your 122-44. That's not the guy that's killing him. That's one of the guys that's killing him. Killed him. And so see, now they have all the advantages in the world. Just too much driving around. Driving. So ideally, when you're driving around, you need to drive around to someplace purposeful. And so a lot of times is, especially on encounter modes like this, is if your team is going to be doing something meaningful, move to a position where you can support them. If they're not doing something meaningful, move to a position where you can do something meaningful.
It's a trap!
It's a little bit too much snipey-dipey here still.
It's a trap!
The T-69 is going in, so he's going to get light, so you want to shoot to reset here. I wouldn't worry about the 3601 right now. Your T-69 is going to die either way, definitely.
It's a trap!
Looks like they're getting off the cap, which is good for you. You don't need to worry about that pressure. You do need to reposition though. Your position's getting a little bit stale. Your T-69, see how he's moving there? He's gonna get pushed by those guys on the low. Or into.
It's a trap!
They're gonna push down into that little gap. So you actually want to get closer to the T-69 so that you can cover him. Like those guys up there, it's not that big of a deal until they push down like that. And now is when you can hop back and forth. So you no longer have a team, and so in a sense that's good because you have nobody left to protect. But you've really failed to protect a lot of these guys.
It's a trap!
So the biggest problem is going to be that JT-88 because he's still got a lot of health. Shoot the Centurion. The SCA is still shootable because he can't back out far enough. Nice. You actually want to curl back. You want to curl back and go back up that one line. You also want to get a little bit more distance between you and them, so it's not as easy for them to spot you crossing across big open plains. And you can come around on this side, but they know that you're here now. And that's part of the reason why you want to go a little bit further south there. So they know that you're coming this way, so you got to keep that in mind. But you know they only have one guy in cap. Probably the Centurion. He's probably going to be in the second gap, or he's on the top. Oh, look at your 122A, just manning it up. And then go back south. Just go back all the way around. There's no cap pressure. There's no reason for you to be hurried here. Just keep driving south. Don't do it. You want to keep driving south there. So what you want to do is you want to minimize the number of guys you have to fight at any one given time. So coming over here is fine. You need it to reset or kill the Centurion eventually. But whenever they know where you are, like you have to think about where they are. Whenever you know where they are and you know that they know where you are, you need to sort of move accordingly. Like, you know that they're all going to be shifting across this way because you got spotted coming this way. They're not going to continue driving out here because there's no purpose to that. And that's sort of a big problem with sitting there. Like, coming over here, killing that Centurion is fine, but as soon as that happens, bail out to the south. Create some room for yourself, and that's part of the reason why I wanted you to go further south over here, is so that they wouldn't know, right? They knew that you were over here, they knew that you were headed south, but they didn't know what your trajectory was going to be. They didn't know whether you're going to try to go after artillery. They didn't know what you were going to do. So if you came a little bit further south here and weren't lit coming up here, it would have been much more of a surprise. And the way that they shifted would have been might have been entirely different. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. The JT-88 is essentially the tank that you want to save for last, because he has the most health. He had, I forget, it was like 1,000 health or something like that. So what you need to do is you need to be able to pick off everyone else and then get into a range where you can, when he spots you, you're already too close and you've closed the gap and you can get to his side. The JT-88 is not the threat there. He's only a threat in a multi-tank configuration, because if you get to his side, then any of the other tanks can still kill you pretty easily. So what you wanted to do is pick off that Centurion, pick off, you know, the 3601 either on either side of the ridge. Probably go find the KV-85 and then either take the RD or the JT-88 depending on the cap there. But I really feel like you spent far too much time over on this side doing nothing. Especially, your team actually had an opportunity to win if you had more cap pressure there. Then it would have made sense to screen those guys from the south, because their team was a little bit too far away. You had a bunch of guys camping up on this C4 ridge, which never really helps you. Alright, so if we look at the stats, let's see. Not bad. Unfortunately, you sent a bunch of your heavies to the east. Again, I don't really feel like that's a very big value play. They didn't do very well. Even if they do very well, though, I don't really think that that's that much of a help. Again, once you win on that sort of E0, F0 area, either team has to push across a big open area in order to get the rest of the way. So I think even if you do win over there, you're better off coming back through the base side and then going up the middle anyways. But you very rarely see pub matches go like that. In all, your shooting efficiency wasn't that bad, but your shot selection and your positioning was probably a little bit more suspect, especially when you knew that they were going to charge that 122-44. You just flip them the bird and say, you're on your own, 122-44, good luck. And I don't think that that's something that you should have done. It would have been really easy for you to give fire support for that 122-44. It would have been free damage, because the Tiger 1, the Centurion, and the whatever the third tank was that was over there, they were all tunneling on the 122-44, and you would have just gotten free damage there. But you spent that time driving around a little bit too much. So that's just a little minor thing to work on. GG though, nice try. And then it's those late game antics. It's always about controlling the situation. It's always about, if you know that you're 1v3, 1v4, or whatever, it's always about dictating the engagement. You occasionally have to pursue certain tanks because they're on your cap or something like that. But after that, once they're not pressuring you, giving you any external pressures, make the situations work to your advantage, especially if you're in a mobile tank. Look to get ISOs, look to get yourself in reasonable 1v1s and pick them off. You don't want to find yourself sitting in an area too long and allowing them to converge onto that area. Alrighty, and the next one will be an M103. Ooh, also on Karelia. Alrighty, tier 10 game. Both teams have a lot of mediums, a couple big already. So you can play a similar position to where that OI experimental played earlier today over in this area. You got to be a little bit more careful. The IS-7 will be a tough draw on the other side. The E-75s are potentially a tough draw on the other side. But you have to see what's there. And depending on how your mediums do, you can play this outside ditch. But that's not something that you want to do without knowing what their opening move is.
Time to roll out.
Let's see. You can drive off the cliff here, but I don't really feel like it makes you go any faster. Thanks for the sub, Smiley FML. And I don't like playing the back line in heavies just because the camo and the size is so bad that a lot of these guys will light you, and especially when there's big arty, that's a very, very big target. So like this is where we played in the Foch earlier, and that's something that you can do because you'll have reasonable camo. If we're playing here in an M103, unless they're really redlining on their side, it's not that good for you. And you're not really going to get that many good shots. See how your T-57 and E5 are pushing forward though? That's fantastic because they're going to be able to bully those guys up there a little bit. Your Batchat got wrecked, but that'll happen. So their team is actually pinned back there a little bit. See how the E5 is going around the bottom? That's fantastic. So you actually want to probably move up a little bit because you need to protect that E5. See how their guys are sitting in the back because you've got a guy in the ditch. So if they're going to do that, let them sit back there. You want to prevent them from pushing to the back side and getting shots onto where your E5 is at. See how they're pushing up to get to your E5? You want to prevent that from happening.
We didn't penetrate their armor.
Right. And a large part of preventing that from happening is if you were up here, you could sort of be literally a physical presence there. And that is usually enough to slow people down.
Penetration.
Unfortunately, you lost the E5, and in that time, when that E5 was being dealt with, see how these guys up here didn't really help him either? They could have come around on that other flank. A lot of times you have to be willing to push into areas where you're going to get shot in order to win or lose games. So they're pushing through the north. It's really not that big of a deal, but you will have to go back, or someone from your team is going to have to go back eventually. And so when you see that, you're going to struggle frontally in this configuration. So, but you can do pretty decently against these mediums. So I would go back. I think that's the right decision. T-49 is one shot. You're not going to get a good shot on that T-49 for a while, though. You do control enough of the hill that you can come up this path if you want, but I would still recommend coming up this path. You don't really get much value coming up there. Unfortunately, the rest of your team is not coming back. But it looks like they're holding their own over there, which is good. This will be a little bit of a struggle, right? Two basically full health tier 10 mediums. Oh, and an IS-7. Just ignore the IS-7. IS-7s are irrelevant at this point. The bigger problem is that you're not going to have any fire support. So if they cap, then you need to reset. If they don't cap, just let them out. Let them out. Like, back up. Let them out. Don't let them know that you're there. Because you don't want to deal with two tier 10 mediums at the same time. Because they will just straight own you. So the 140 is bailing. So what you should have done is just let the 140 bail and then deal with the Batchat. Because one tier 10 medium is going to be difficult enough. Two tier 10 mediums, that's a little bit too much. That's outside of your pay grade. And if they're not going to put cap pressure on you, if they're just going to run away, that's fine. Just let them. That's good. I mean, so the Batchat's probably running away because he's reloading, which means when he comes back, he's going to be able to hurt you. So you don't want to sit here. The Batchat is even running away. Yeah, I don't understand that Batchat. Those guys could have just smoked you there. So I would get as many shots as I possibly could here. Stay as close to this rock as you possibly can. I'm gonna guess that the zoom is bugged and that you're zooming in here because the reticle's not even moving on my screen, so I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. There you go. Shoot the eyes.
Penetration. We're immobilized.
Unfortunately, as baddies are tend to do, they keep pushing forward on this side, despite the fact that they know that they've got a bunch of tanks behind them. No, you still got shots here. Take your shots here. You need to try to protect your 140 as best you can. They're gonna push you soon enough. Don't worry about that. You'll be able to take damage soon enough. Just focus on. You keep letting that IS-7 poke out and shoot other things. And then you don't want to back up here. You actually want to just sit there and take it.
Critical hit.
The Leo's in the middle, which is fine. You know the cap was just set off, so he's coming up behind you. He's the one-shot guy. Just back up, back up. That works. No, so you're okay with getting shot by the E-75. You should be okay with getting shot by the IS-7. You are not okay with getting shot by Artie. Like that should be your biggest concern. That was close. I think that was an AP shell too from the T-92. Again, so it's all about attrition. You know, you want to be able to decide what's the biggest threat to you.
Drive on.
You're getting a little lucky, but I guess it's worked for you. The problem is that it's a Batchat 158, so he's going to get multiple shot chances if you keep just giving him your rear out here like that. And you don't need to shuffle quite so much. And it's again, once he shoots you, it's okay. Let the Leo deal with the IS-7. The Leo could have killed the IS-7 for you. Oh, look at that. Don't ram him. Don't ram him. Shoot him in the cap. Shoot him in the hat. Good job. And then now you're going to get shot. Oh, the Leo 1 can't deal with the IS-7. Back of IS-7, too strong.
It's a trap!
You actually probably could have just hid behind that right there. Although, technically, you probably could have. Although you can get splashed out really from any place now. And then again, good players try to defend, bad players try to attack. It's actually probably not that good of an idea to leave the base at this point. They've got a much... This is a very similar situation to the OI. You have a relatively slow tank against a faster opponent, and there's more of them than there are you, which means it's very easy for them to ultimately be able to cap you out. So since you... In the interim where you know where the Batchat is, it's actually better to, you know, maybe just like come down this middle here. Because you want to have the element of surprise, because you're not going to be able to survive against a Batchat for very long. And if you get lit, you can't hide anywhere because you can get splashed out pretty easily. So those are two negatives to your situation. So you want to be in a situation where you can basically ambush a tank. And then just hope that he's low. And then you might want to consider loading HE here. Let's see what the HE 10 on this bad boy is. 60. Alright, no, maybe not. That's a little bit too low. And so you don't want to be in a lane like this. You always want to be, again, someplace, especially when you know that you have low health and we're not really sure how much the Batchat has. You want to be in a place where bam, turns a corner and you both run into each other. That's the situation that you have to win. If he spots you from a long distance, in this particular case, it's not that good because he has all the advantages because you're in a much slower tank and he's got Artie. So all he has, he doesn't even have to shoot at you. What you're really hoping for is that you can ambush this Batchat around a corner someplace. And hope that he's low enough health that you can one-shot him. Which is why I was suggesting, you know, maybe sitting behind one of these rocks over here. Because you know, ultimately they're going to have to come up towards your cap if they want to win. And they're either going to try to have to track you down, or they're going to run into you on the cap. We're gonna have to speed these things up. And you don't want to be in a situation, like you can leave a long road behind you, right? So that people can't flank you. You just want to have a short road in front of you. And so waiting for him to get on cap is also really bad, because then they're gonna know the approach. They're gonna know that you're going to be coming, and that's why I like surprising people in unknown, in sort of random areas. Like again, you could be over in this area over here, this over here, because it'll be much easier to surprise them than otherwise. See, so my entire thing is that waiting for them to get on cap, I mean, it's just, you knew that was going to happen eventually, so what you wanted to be able to do is surprise them before they got onto cap, because now they're going to be sitting on cap going, okay, where is he going to be coming from? Now all the arty is going to be focused up there. Whereas if you surprise them before they get to the cap, then they're not going to be ready for that. And so this will be tough, because all they have to do is splash you, and you don't know how much health the Batchat has. So you probably want to come up as close to that rock as you did last time. Most likely they're going to be on the opposite side of the cap, probably behind the boxes, depends on which tank it is. But I would get to this rock first and then go over.
It's a trap!
It must be a camera thing, because a replay bug. Oh, nice. So yeah, I mean, you didn't do too badly. I don't really think that this is a great position for heavy tanks at the start. Especially, you saw that your T-57, E-5, Batchat, you had a number of your top tier tanks push in over here, which is potentially good. You saw a number of their tier 9 heavies sitting back here, which is potentially good, right? They were cowering a bit. What you want to be able to do is pin those guys in, especially when that E5 pushed around here. You want to prevent these guys from pushing out and being able to shoot your E5 in the butt. On the flip side of that, you had a couple of guys up here that also just left that E5 out to dry, that could have come around over here, because both of those guys turned around towards the E5 and were dealing with the E5, and these guys could have come around and flanked those guys as well. But you can control what you can control, right? So what you could have controlled is you could have been further up here in a position where you could shoot these heavies here. And the difference is that when you're unspotted and you're shooting at people, psychologically the threat to them isn't as big as if you are a tank that's right there and spotted and lit and shooting at them. They will be much less willing to push out here to shoot this E5 if you are visible and shooting them than if you're invisible and shooting them. And so that's why I think pushing up and making yourself visible there, you know, it's like making yourself big to scare off a lion, would have helped out your E5 maybe a little bit. Maybe they still would have been willing to push out here to shoot him, but you know, you needed to try something to try to save that guy. And then after that, it was fine. I think just, again, a lot of the late game plays is about trying to put yourself in advantageous positions. Going back to cap was fine. I really felt like, especially when you knew basically full health 140, full health Batchat, you don't want to push both of those guys at the same time unless you have to, right? If they're both on cap and they're just sitting on cap, okay, you gotta push them. But you knew that 140 was leaving cap. You saw him leaving. So all you had to do is just wait behind this rock, let him leave, and then you can push the Batchat if you want, right? You don't want to try to engage both of those guys at the same time if you can avoid it. And then after that, it's fine. It's just, again, you came all the way back down here. You knew that they were going to come to the cap eventually. So you make yourself in a position where you can get to them before the cap. Because once they're on the cap, they're going to be really, really set up for your approach. And so if we look at the stats. Not bad. Your team actually didn't do too horribly. It just could have they could have worked better together. Not a bad game though. GG. Nice try. I will send you a code through the official forums if you are on the North American server. Alright, we'll do one more. It's also 9.10. So, yeah, almost top tier. There's only 2 9s, and there's a lot of 7s. This is a good game to be a 9 in. Given their comp, you could play either side, depending on what your team's dispersion is. I like playing through here initially, simply because on encounter they spawn further away, and that gives you an advantage to get a good volley off, and then you can sort of relocate as you want. But I think the spawn favors the south team for encounter in terms of owning this city. You just need to be sure that your team gets out here fast enough that they can do something. Driving around a little bit. Okay, so it looks like you made the decision to go city, which is fine. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. And so in that particular case, because you're in a fragile tank, what you're looking to do is you're looking to find a heavy or maybe like the super Pershing. And if they're going to be aggressive and push someplace, you want to be able to clip out with them. Man, I really feel like you could have feasted over here, but them's the breaks. Their team did interestingly, a much better job of spawning than your team. Which is not super easy given the spawns. But see how, like, you don't have anybody fronting for you, and that's always going to make it more difficult in the 5100, because it's not like you can trade super efficiently otherwise. You're always going to take damage. The reload time is not so fast that, you know, you can get out 4 shots to 1. Sitting in the back is not going to help your team. You need to be getting set up for shots. On that corner is fine. No, you don't really need to move any more forward than you do, because you can see them moving forward.
It's a trap!
You can still shoot his lower glacius there. He was giving you enough. So he's in a good position and you're in a bad position. And usually when that happens, you need to move. You could just go someplace else. So they completely outnumber you here. That's a good shot. Shoot a little bit more to the back. Oh, he's already tracking the inside. Never mind. So this is what you want. And then you can back up and reload. Good job. They are sort of starting to crush here. This Tiger 1's not going to live. You got a bunch of guys on this backline. When you have a bunch of guys on this backline, you want to play this corner right here. As soon as you're reloaded, you should already be here and ready to go. You don't want to wait. Like, see how this super Pershing is moving up here? You don't have that much time left on your reload. You can be up here by the super Pershing, ready to clip these guys out. As soon as that clip is loaded, you want to be going. Your team needs you. And one of the things that you want to avoid doing is spending a lot of time loaded and not shooting anything. You can still clip out that KV-3, clear out that 3 line. You can still do it. You got that super Pershing there to help you.
It's a trap!
So you're going to lose the other side, so you need to get your gun into the game. Even if you get shot, take a little damage, it's worth it. But you need to start cutting down on the numbers and the health that these guys have out here.
It's a trap!
And that's fine. Even if it's just chasing down this bulldog, you need to get in the game.
It's a trap!
Il est cuit. Passez au suivant. Cible verrouillée. On a perdu la cible.
And so, unfortunately, taking this corner is not nearly as good as the corner that the super Pershing is on. But if you can kill this T-71, that'll help him out a lot. He's over to your right there.
It's a trap!
So this is a dangerous proposition, but you're gonna have to push across here. You can shoot at those guys on the other side through the window if you want, but it's those guys. It's that T-71 that's annoying your super Pershing, and you've allowed them to peck away at him a little bit too much.
It's a trap!
On les tient, les gars. Ils sont seulement touchés. Cible détruite.
So I would save that shell. Just use it to kill the T-71. Just drive across, take a shot from the Tiger 1. Okay, that's fine. Alright, then take a shot at Tiger 1 and reload. One shell is not helping you. Just go ahead and reload now if you're not going to take this shot. There's a shot on the T-34. I'm not entirely sure where you're aiming at. You can still shoot that T-34. Okay, well then you should be reloading. If you're not going to use that shell, you use the reload. Alright, so that T-34 is now pushing down that side.
Ils sont touchés.
So these guys are eventually going to push on the backside of the T-34. So what you actually want to do, even though you're reloading, come over here and just spot through this window and slow them down. Because they will appear right here. And they will shoot this guy in the ass. Like, it is not a question. Well, I guess technically it's a question, because potentially they could both disconnect or whatever. But eventually somebody's going to push around on that backside of your super Pershing. Well, and it's not going to be the T-34, interestingly. You need to be willing to take a hit to clip the hell out of somebody right now. You're almost loaded. Oh my god! You wait until you're almost loaded and then you move. You want to be using that clip. The instant that you're clipped, you want to be clipping somebody out. It would have been more profitable for you to clip out that T-34, but that's okay. So that's fine. They're going to push on the front side of this T-34 now. You might as well fix your driver. Oh, why did you reload now? The game's almost over. You're not going to be reloaded before the game is... Well, the game's already decided. You're not going to be reloaded before the game is ended. No! That is unfortunate.
It's a trap!
Alright, so what are the many things that went wrong there? Well, your team didn't really look off their scouts. Their team did a good job of lighting you guys leaving the base and getting damaging shots out on you because you didn't really have any presence here stopping them. And that's sort of the problem that I always find, is that if this south team doesn't play the north side of the F line to keep these guys honest, then they'll get shots for free, basically. And if you don't have good artillery, then they're not going to really be able to punish. So you came this way, which is fine. It's not that big of a deal, even though I don't necessarily agree with it in a 5100. I think it's fine. But I thought what you did here was a little bit too passive. I think coming over here and getting shots on that M103 was fine, but a lot of times, especially in tanks like artillery and clip tanks with really long reloads, use that time where you have a really long reload to do one of two things, actually both things. One, look at the mini-map. See, where is my team? Where is my team struggling? Where is my team succeeding? What is their team doing? Where is their team struggling? Where is their team succeeding? How can I reposition myself in this 45 seconds that I have where I'm waiting for my reload to put myself in to benefit the team? And so what you want to do is that you want, by the time you get to the end, near the end of your reload, whether you're in an artillery or whether you're in a clip tank, you already want to be in a position where you're about to hammer somebody, and then as soon as you're clipped, you want to turn that corner and you just want to hammer them. And so, like, there was a lot of opportunities for you to help out the super Pershing that came over here. This was a good position to take, but you know, they pushed some light tanks across, and that really hurt the position that he was in, because they were able to just shoot him in the side for free. He couldn't keep these guys in front of him. That took off a lot of health. So it was some pretty bad clip management. I felt like you had that one shot that you babied for the longest time. You could have even just fired it. I don't care if you don't aim at all and you just fire at that T-34 as you're crossing. That's fine. That's better than doing nothing. Or just reload that earlier. And then when you had 2 shots or whatever left over, and near the end of the game right there, you can try to hit that T-34, give your super Pershing an opportunity there against the T-34 if he manages to bounce or miss one. You know, just manage your clips according to the down and distance. It's really important. You don't throw a 5-yard out if you need 10 yards to get the first down. You know, you need to do the same thing when you have a clip. You need to manage your clip and use it efficiently. All right, so if we look at the stats, thanks for the resubs easily. Yeah, you didn't get a whole lot out of your team, particularly your 9s, but that'll happen from time to time. It's still, you know, you didn't have very much in the city. You still had a lot of tanks in the field, but they were sort of in the back, and that's always going to hurt you. You could play, again, I'm still more of a proponent from that south side to play the east village. I just feel you already have a built-in advantage for doing that. But again, if you don't want to, that's totally fine. But you still need to take advantage of the opportunities that you have in the city if that's the case. Overall, not bad though. I mean, you're pretty efficient with your shots, which is good. Some of them were a little bit lucky. You didn't let them aim all the way in, because like that KV-3 was about to leave your firing solution. The Tiger 1 was about to leave your firing solution. But you know, you need a little bit of luck sometimes. But yeah, just look to support your team, especially if you find yourself in the 5100 in a city map type of situation. You want to find somebody who's gonna take a corner or be aggressive with some armor, take some shots, and then you want to be with them so you can poke out after they shoot at him, get off a couple of shots, and then duck down back behind him. That's usually the best sort of city play that you can make if you can't actually, you know, do a flanking maneuver. And in this particular situation, you really couldn't do one very efficiently. But GG, nice try. I will send you a code if you are on the North American server.